Welcome to the Mishkodeh story. We would like to take 15 minutes of your time to introduce you to an exciting proposal called the Mishkodeh Centre for Indigenous Knowledge. Situated in the heart of downtown Balkajan, the Mishkodeh will bring together an inspiring collaboration of Indigenous and non-Indigenous community members. It is important for the adults and youth of the Kawartha region and beyond to be able to reconnect to this long-abandoned land rich with history. Join us so that you too can be a part of a shift in awareness that is happening all across Canada. When you see and hear about the many important pieces that have come together to make this groundbreaking endeavor a possibility, you may find yourself just as inspired as we are. We want to give you a sense of who is already on board, the important history that you may not be aware of, and how this project is a valuable step in working towards reconciliation, and how this cultural centre will impact the vitality of the whole region. The Truth and Reconciliation community of Bobcaygeon is one of the proud collaborators on this proposal. If you would like to know more about us and our work, you can see all about that at the end of this video. Please read along with me as we begin the journey. The Truth and Reconciliation community Bobcaygeon, in relationship with Indigenous peoples, desires to purchase the 4.8-acre property at the corner of Canal Street East and William Street in Bobcaygeon. You can see the proximity of this land, the meadow, or Mishkodeh, to the loch and the library in downtown Bobcaygeon. It is reported by knowledge keepers and elders that this is where Indigenous people set up camp on the shallow rapids between Pigeon Lake and Sturgeon Lake long before settlers took possession of these lands. The intent of our group is to work with Indigenous people to set up a Centre for Indigenous Knowledge and carry out land-based language learning. This would be a benefit to Indigenous and non-Indigenous people. As Bobcaygeon is already a thriving hub of the Kawarthas, this will attract even more visitors to the city of Kawartha Lakes and could be an important model of how community can engage in true reconciliation. While we may still be at the early stages of our journey, a lot has happened already. In 2015, Curve Lake elder Doug Williams walked this land with members of the Truth and Reconciliation community of Bobcaygeon, and he shared stories of its use as a Mishkodeh. He could see a cultural centre here. To get a fuller picture of the property and the potential it offers for land-based learning, stay and watch Elaine Bird's video tour of the Mishkodeh at the end of this presentation. On May 27, 2021, the remains of 215 Indigenous children were detected, children who had been buried on the grounds of the former Kamloops Indian Residential School in BC. Truth and Reconciliation community Bobcaygeon decided to commemorate the lives of the 215 children with an art installation. River stones were painted orange in the spirit of Every Child Matters Orange T-shirt campaign. Over 50 community members helped us paint the stones. Since the initial opening of the art installation, the stones have been to Fenelon Falls, then back to Bobcaygeon, and now on to Lindsay, sparking many good conversations and a lot of interest. Ann Taylor, Curve Lake First Nation language coordinator, helped us open the art installation in a good way. She shared difficult stories of how the Indian residential school system has impacted her and her family and friends. In fact, as Anne says, there is not an Anishinaabe person who has not been impacted by the residential school system in some way. Indigenous women have laid their hearts on the ground, said Anne, and it is time for settler Canadians to step up as never before. All Canadians need to know Canada's real history and be aware of what systemic and discriminatory obstacles continue today. You can see and hear Anne and her story in her own voice in a clip at the end of this video. When we were first looking for a place to display the art installation, we wanted to lay them on this special land, this meadow, this Mishkodeh. That led to a conversation with one of the owners of the land, Shiraz Jaffa. As soon as TRC Bobcaygeon members shared Doug Williams' story about the Mishkodeh, he wanted to know more. Listening to Anne Taylor at the opening of the art installation, Shiraz was very moved. He says he wanted to do something good for the community, and he has offered us the opportunity to purchase this land for the Mishkodeh Centre for Indigenous Knowledge. Since this centre is something we all want to do together, the anticipated collaborators for the Mishkodeh Centre for Indigenous Knowledge include the Truth and Reconciliation Community of Bobcaygeon, Curve Lake First Nation, and other Indigenous communities in the Williams Treaty Territory, Community Foundation of Kawartha Lakes, Kawartha Works Community Cooperative, and the City of Kawartha Lakes. In the beginning, as we were thinking about how to make this work, we looked at the Grove Theatre in Fenelon Falls as an example of the Community Foundation of Kawartha Lakes and the Kawartha Works Community Cooperative working together to bring success. The boards of these two organizations have confirmed their support for the project and can serve to assist the community in implementing the project through fundraising and project management. Both Jack Rocks and Jim Armstrong expressed their enthusiasm for the Mishkodeh in video clips at the end of this video. The Community Foundation of Kawartha Lakes and the Kawartha Works Community Cooperative can work with the city and Curve Lake First Nation to leverage community involvement through financial and operational support. Both the city and Curve Lake First Nation are registered qualified donees under the Income Tax Act, and that would facilitate using the fundraising ability of the foundation to support the project. The donor fund through the Community Foundation will permit sustainability, which will be used for ongoing costs of maintenance, etc. Our collaboration on this project began with many conversations. We have met individually with members of Curve Lake First Nations, Chief Emily Weetung, Chief Operating Officer Katie Haddlesley, Language Coordinator Ann Taylor, Elder Doug Williams, Cultural Archivist and Youth Engagement Officer Jack Hogarth, Counselor and Deputy Chief Jeff Jacobs, DJ Fife, who is a language coordinator. We are currently in the process of incorporating the Mishkodeh Centre for Indigenous Knowledge as a vehicle to implement the project. This is our vision. The Mishkodeh, a place to gather, an open door for the building of new relationships, a center for all, right in the heart of Bobcaygeon, the gateway to the city of Kawartha Lakes. Our goals for this project are to enhance Indigenous presence within Bobcaygeon and the city of Kawartha Lakes, to convey to residents and visitors the long and rich history of Mi'kmaq Nishnabeg in the Kawartha Lakes and emphasize that they retain a vibrant presence here today, to facilitate land-based language learning, to provide examples of how Indigenous peoples have sustainably used natural resources of the region to inspire others to be more responsible environmental stewards, to celebrate the inventiveness, creativity, and strength of the city's Indigenous populations in the face of colonization, to contribute to the process of truth and reconciliation. It has been emphasized to us that land-based language learning is extremely important. Land-based learning is education, community, and skills building or training that takes place outdoors, in particular places of local significance, often on traditional Indigenous territories. Teachings can include land-based language learning, harvesting, hunting, trapping, fishing, medicine gathering, bush survival skills, and traditional land-based scientific knowledge and culture. It often includes elders and knowledge keepers as teachers. The importance of building relationships and the bonding that occur on the land is emphasized both with participants and educators, as well as relationships with non-human relations. The 4 pillars of this endeavor include respect, relationships, reconciliation, and reciprocity. With respect, it is important to honor and respect wishes and vision of First Nations peoples for the future use of the land. Relationships. It is important to contribute to the well-being of the communities surrounding the land, in relationship with the land, and in relationship with each other. Reconciliation. It is important to acknowledge the truth of the past, honors Williams Treaties and Treaty 20, recognize and support the deep connection Indigenous peoples have with the land, and support the reclamation of identity, language, and culture. Reciprocity. It is important to act as within a circle in which Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples care for one another and the land without an endpoint in mind. A word from Governor General Mary Simon. Since the publication of the Truth and Reconciliation Report 6 years ago, we have learned as a country that we need to learn the real history of Canada. Embracing this truth makes us stronger as a nation, unites Canadian society, and teaches our kids that we must always do our best, especially when it is hard. My view is that reconciliation is a way of life and requires work every day. Reconciliation is getting to know one another. Since this project is located in Bobcaygeon, a word from Gord Downey is fitting. He challenges Canadians to do something, and here is something we can do together. He says, the new 150 years can be years of building an actual nation. Imagine if Indigenous people were part of us and we them. How incredibly cool it would make us. That's what's missing as we celebrate donuts and coffee over and over and over again. The benefits for the city of Kawartha Lakes and the community members within and beyond are to provide meaningful contribution to sharing local history, to encourage respect for Indigenous history and reconciliation, to provide an educational resource for local residents, including youth and our schools, to create jobs, to be a visitor and community economic driver for Kawartha Lakes and Bobcaygeon. Here's a look at our timeline. Get final approval from Chief and Council and the people of Curve Lake First Nation. Purchase the land in the fall of 2021. In a year, transform the Bobcaygeon Library space to an Anishinaabe-Moan language nest. Our dream is to see the Mishkodeh land finally being used by the community. And our ultimate dream is to have a center for Indigenous knowledge established in the heart of downtown Bobcaygeon. Our fundraising will be a grand campaign. We will be actively seeking funding from community grants, foundations, churches, unions, and many other organizations and individuals. The public giving can be facilitated through the Community Foundation of Kawartha Lakes. They are the vehicle to consolidate the public component. The Community Foundation of Kawartha Lakes can assist community fundraising and issue tax receipts with the requirements of the Income Tax Act. Before you go on to hear from Ann Taylor, Jack Rocks, Jim Armstrong, and Elaine Bird, let me say, Chi Miigwech, a big thank you for your interest in the Mishkodeh. We hope that you share our excitement and that you will get involved. We have a beautiful opportunity to create a land-based learning center for everyone. It will be unique and groundbreaking. We hope that you will share the benefits of this project with those in your circles and that you will help support this project when we go public with our fundraising campaign. Together, we can do this. Thank you.
Wewena bojo anin mang kwandishnikas nikigeni doram shkigamang donjaba Michisagi Ganishna Bakwandao. My English name is Ann Taylor. I'm of the Otter clan, and I come from Curve Lake First Nation, and I'm a Michisagi Ganishnaabeg woman. I've been sitting with the TRC Bobcaygeon group, and we've been talking about this piece of land in Bobcaygeon that was the Mozamboid estate, and it's currently available. That place was Mishkodeh. It was a place where we burned the land so that the medicines would come up. The medicines would be the first things that would come up, and so we could use those medicines. This is an important project that we're working on together because what we're trying to do is we're trying to rebuild a relationship that's been damaged over the years. And particularly this year with everything that's come out in the news, we have to really be careful about our relationships and rebuild those friendships. And that's what we're trying to do here when we're trying to establish something on that site of that Mishkodeh, that Mozamboid estate. Because much like Mishkodeh, when we burn it and those medicines come up, that's what we're trying to do with this relationship. We're trying to build that medicine up between our relationships so we can heal each other, so we can walk beside each other, and so we can grow together. And by using that Mishkodeh for purposes to educate settler allies and First Nations people together, it develops that relationship and it strengthens that friendship. And in these current times, that's what we need. The language that the Michisagi people speak comes from the land, and a lot of that is surrounding that Mishkodeh. So it would be wonderful to have any kind of support that we can get for this project to move it forward and to help us strengthen that friendship and to help us grow into a better, stronger relationship than we've had in the past.
Hello, my name is Jack Rocks. I'm the president of the board of the Community Foundation of Kawartha Lakes, and I'm here to let you know, standing in front of the library in Bobcaygeon, that the Community Foundation board is very excited to participate in the project involving the development of Mishkodeh across the road here, and in particular working with the city of Kawartha Lakes and Curve Lake First Nations to use the resources that we have in the community, such as this library, which could be repurposed to support the broader initiative using private donations to help facilitate a very important public good. And so we're here to let you know that the board of the Community Foundation is very excited to participate in the project with the city, with Curve Lake, and with all the other community organizations that you're going to hear from.
Kawartha Works Community Cooperative supports the Mishkodeh project because it's such a wonderful idea to create a Center for Indigenous Knowledge here. And I think that's partly because it's such an absolutely good location with the history of Indigenous use from long ago and being right in the center of the Bobcaygeon community. So I think there's great potential, for example, to contribute to Indigenous reconciliation and also as a learning resource, especially for young people.
Hello, I'm Elaine Bird, and I'm standing in the heart of Bobcaygeon, where the library and the museum, the Boyd Museum, we're looking at the stone wall, and if you can see in the right-hand corner is the arch that's pictured on the square that I did about the Mishkodeh. And if you turn around, you can see what's left of the stone wall here and there on this almost 5 acres piece of land in the 1990s was just starting to fall into disrepair. The last of the Boyds to live here, Sheila Boyd, lived in one part of the house, and the rest of the house was this kind of fantastic Victorian manor, sort of the Downton Abbey of Bobcaygeon. And it eventually was not restored, sort of, I guess, burned down. It was an epitaph to colonialism, I'd say. The lumber baron family who took down massive pines and oaks all along the north shore of Sturgeon Lake and many places in the Kawarthas. They became very rich here. So that was my initial interest. I was drawn to this historical piece of property, and then discovered that there was much, much more history and a deeper story. The Mississauga Anishinaabe were here for centuries, and this is a place at the foot of the rapids between Sturgeon Lake and Pigeon Lake. Bobcaygeon means running water, rapids. And in Anishinaabe, you can hear the word. It sounds like running water. And if you listen to the word for meadow, it's Mishkodeh. And I don't know if you can hear the breeze today, but it's breezy in here, and it's a beautiful space. People would camp here, meet, trade, and there was healing herbs on this very special place. It's kind of gone back to being a meadow, so it's come around in a circle, and it's waiting, I think, for something hopeful, something healing, something reconciling to happen between First Nations and settlers. I don't know what that would be. You can see here some of the huge trees that have survived the burnings that the Anishinaabe did to keep the land clear. There were strawberries, and tobacco was traded here. Sage was probably grown here. I know I've planted some here this year. It's a very sacred place, and I thank Doug Williams for telling us about it, and I feel very grateful for all the learning that we've done with our TRC group, and hopeful that this land, this relationship we have with the land, and the relationship we have with our neighbors can become more balanced, healthier, and be a place that our children will enjoy, and perhaps a recognition of the two cultures